My dearest Adeline, I hope this letter finds you in good health. I can only imagine the worries that you must be feeling in your heart during these tumultuous times. Rest assured I am safe and sound, though the circumstances surrounding us are quite unnerving to say the least. Your concerns about my safety here in Louisiana have reached me, and I understand how my current predicament would stir such anxiety. While the war has presented itself with its own set of challenges, there's another matter that troubles me so, more so than Grant's men advancing closer by the day. The men here tell stories of monstrous things out in the bayou. While I have yet to see anything as unholy as this, disappearances have been noted, and to be honest, it sets my teeth on edge. I try my best to push these thoughts from my mind, as I believe they are nothing more than the product of fear and superstition running amok amidst the chaos of battle. Yes, Louisiana has always been home to tales of voodoo and witchcraft, but I have yet to encounter anything of the sorts that poses a real threat to us. Fear not, my love, for I'm surrounded by brave comrades who watch over each other with steadfast loyalty. I yearn for the days when the dreadful conflict is behind us, and I can hold you in my arms once more. Until then, hold on to hope, my dear Adeline, and know that my love for you remains as unwavering as ever. With all your heart, Jonathan.
Hunt Showdown is not a game for the faint of heart. This horror-inspired trip through the bayous and swamps of the late 19th century Louisiana will have you and your friends facing hordes of the undead as you advance toward your bounties in the glory of extracting from the fray with better and better gear. But be careful, you are not alone in this fight. With a total of 12 players in any given match, you'll be competing against anywhere from 9 to 11 other players, all with the same goal: killing the boss and taking what's theirs. You will need to use all of the tools at your disposal if you want any chance of surviving and making it back to the extraction without succumbing to the mysterious virus and the souls it has claimed. Before every raid, you will have the opportunity to select your player from the selection of standard hunters who will be given randomized loadouts based on the price point of that hunter. The free hunter will always have a weapon, so there's no reason you should ever need to venture into battle unarmed, but the weapons will usually be very basic, and you will need to survive with this hunter in order to increase the trait points and improve the character and buy better and better traits. As your account level increases, you'll begin to unlock the option of buying tier 2 and tier 3 hunters, which will cost some hunt dollars, the currency for the game, which can be earned entirely just by playing the game, and they will come equipped with more premium weapons and better perks out of the gate. Now, if you're loaded with hunt dollars and don't mind spending a little bit more money, you can also opt to select one of the premium hunters, which can be earned through prestiging, Twitch drops, or purchasing DLC. And if I just want to make a note, there is a ton of content in forms of DLC for this game. This game does it right, in my opinion. By placing the content at a comparatively low cost compared to the quality of the skins received. To this day, this is one of the few games that I actually get excited to buy DLC for, and currently own roughly half of the downloadable characters. These premium hunters will come with their own lore and reason for being in the fight, and I don't know, there's just something fun about sneaking around as a shirtless hillbilly with frag grenades attached to my longbow, or sitting back and sniping as an old lady picking off hunters from hundreds of meters away. Now, once you're in the game, you will spawn at a random point on the edge of a grayed out map. The map will either have 1 or 2 bounties, which can be seen by looking for a red dividing line on the map. You can choose to stay in your region and chase the bounty in your designated spot, or venture into the other half if the bounty is larger. Now, the larger the area the bounty is located in, the more money will be rewarded upon a successful banishment and extraction. But be careful, because a lot of players will have the same idea. There have been multiple times where I've started in a 2 bounty match, and every single player completely ignores the small bounty to attack the large one first. And by the time the first boss is dead and banished, there's usually only 1 team left, which allows for an easy fight with the smaller boss. Now, to locate the boss, you will need to use Dark Sight. By using Dark Sight, you will see a faint blue haze which will glow more and more prominent the closer you get to the clues, scattered throughout the map. When you approach a clue, you will activate a button prompt to collect it, which will narrow down the possible areas the boss could be found. Once all 3 clues have been found and collected, the boss region will be shown and you can advance to banish the beast and collect your bounty. Now, it is entirely possible to skip all of the clues and search each region hoping you get lucky, but unless you spawn very near the boss, it is usually a better idea to discover the clues as it provides you with more money and XP upon discovery. However, there have been a few or more times where I've spawned in directly on top of the boss area and have been able to banish the boss and extract in under 5 minutes without seeing a single other player. Be careful though, because getting to the boss will not be a walk in the park. While you have to be on the lookout for other players, there's also the horde of the infected that you will need to make your way through if you ever hope to lay your eyes on the bounty. The Grunt is the most common enemy type and can be found scattered all across the map either by themselves or traveling in a group. The Grunt is the weakest enemy and can be killed instantly with a headshot from any weapon or an attack with a heavy melee weapon. But don't worry, if you're like me and don't always have pinpoint accuracy and keep missing the head due to random jittery movements of the enemy, a few body shots will do the trick as well. There's 5 main variants of the Grunt. The standard Grunt will become aggravated when it sees the player and will begin shambling towards you to attack you by hitting it with its flailing arms. Doing minor damage, these will rarely give you much trouble. There's also the knife Grunts, who will behave exactly the same as standard Grunts, but when close will swing at you with a large cleaver and will cause bleeding damage that needs to be addressed quickly before it completely consumes one of your health bars. Gun Grunts are another less common variant and can be identified by the bandolier draped across their chest. When a gun grunt sees you, it will attempt to fire at you with a single shot from its revolver, but their aim is so terrible that they may as well just be firing into the air. The danger of the gun grunt doesn't come from the possibility that it might shoot you, but from the sound of the shot itself. Hunt Showdown is a very sound-heavy game, and if other hunters around hear the gunshot from the grunt, they will know somebody is nearby, and you may find yourself in a much worse fight very quickly. Next, we have the Surgeon. Now this grunt has a distinct look. Cloaked in bloodied surgical apron, this enemy type carries a rusty bone saw that when struck, applies the poison effect to the hunter, which will slowly decrease the player's health over a short time and leave the player unable to heal unless counteracted with a remedy injection. When killed, the surgeon will drop a health pack that can be picked up and applied immediately or at a time of the player's choosing. The last grunt that we have is the Lantern Grunt. Be careful not to let this guy get too close, as he will swing a lit lantern at you that will burst into flames, catching the player on fire. I'll touch on this aspect of the health system more later in the video, but just know that if fire is not put out quickly enough and it consumes an entire health bar, there is no way of getting that chunk of health back without banishing a bounty. All of these grunts can be dealt with rather easily and don't pose too much of a threat by themselves. Just be careful not to let them overwhelm you. The next enemy type I'm going to cover is the Emulator. These guys are a pain to deal with as they have increased health and will run at the player faster than the standard grunt. If allowed to get too close to the player, the Emulator will repeatedly swing at the player, causing blunt damage and a burn effect, which will increase over time if not dealt with quickly. Upon attacking an Emulator, he will become enraged, exploding into a ball of flame which applies an AoE damage effect if you're too close to it. The Emulator will then aggro on the nearest player, regardless of whether or not that unlucky player was the one who attacked him first. The best way to deal with an Emulator is with choke bombs or a poison shot, as both will kill him instantly. If no forms of instant death are available, you can also attack the Emulator with blunt attacks, whether from knuckle dusters, fists, bats, or the butt of your gun. If you choose to use the latter, be careful when using the Talon variants of weapons, because if you use a power attack with those, you will cause the player to attack with the bladed portion of the weapon, which will cause an instant aggro. Just remember, any attack that penetrates the skin of the Emulator will cause him to erupt and go crazy. Next, we have every player's nightmare fuel, the Hive. One of the most tragic enemies in terms of the lore of the game. I'm serious, I recommend reading the lore behind every enemy, but the Hive is truly one of the most heartbreaking enemies of the game. Anyway, these enemies can be identified by their broken back and exposed ribcage, and will be covered in a swarm of flies. Upon noticing a player, the Hive will scream, and a swarm will emerge from the nest inside the Hive's chest, and immediately begin to attack the player. The Hive is the only enemy type that does not ever physically attack the player on its own, rather, only attacks with the swarm. Once engulfed by the flies, player movement and vision will become obstructed, along with the poison effect being applied. The flies will disperse once the Hive is killed, so it is best to deal with her quickly. This can be done with a single headshot, but be careful because her head will be somewhere around her chest area and off to the side, due to her spine being completely snapped in half. If a headshot cannot be achieved quickly without missing, and she becomes enraged, a throwing axe or fire damage will also do the job very quickly. The Hive is immune to poison damage, just like how the Emulator is immune to fire, so be careful what ammo type you attack her with. The Hellhounds roam the map in packs. Upon seeing the player, they will let out a howl and begin running quickly at the player, causing a bleeding effect when attacking. The best way to kill a Hellhound is once again with a headshot, but be aware, some hounds may be wearing a helmet that will completely negate damage to the head unless using Spitzer ammunition. The armored enemy come in two types, standard armor and concertina. These enemies are covered in a strange husk that can absorb a lot of damage before allowing any harm to come to the host. Armored enemies can be stun locked, however, by repeated melee attacks until they fall. But be careful, because if you're facing a concertina armored enemy, getting too close and meleeing will once again cause a bleeding effect. These enemies can be killed by a single shot from a poison or fire weapon. The Meathead is a large, hulking enemy type. Contrary to the name, does not have a head. Rather, the entire upper chest is missing, leaving a large gaping hole filled with rotting flesh. Due to this, the Meathead is completely blind and uses a form of poison sense to find its prey. The Meathead is surrounded by leeches that it uses as its eyes. When spotted, the leeches will advance towards your player, applying a poison effect once getting close enough. Once poisoned, the Meathead knows exactly where you are and will barrel in your direction, swinging his cleaver wildly until making contact with you. Now, what the Meathead has in power, it loses in speed and mobility. If the leeches don't notice you or have all been killed, the Meathead's only way of knowing your location is by damaging it. Once damaged, the Meathead will once again charge and swing in the direction the damage came from, but by simply moving out of the way can be avoided altogether. The fastest way to dispose of a Meathead is by attaching a spike grenade to its body. Once killed, the Meathead will occasionally drop a trait that can be claimed by 2 survivors before disappearing. Lastly, we have the Water Devils. These will spawn randomly in bodies of water on the map. Before stepping foot off dry land, look for air bubbles on the surface of the water, as these are the only indicator of their presence. Once the player touches the surface of the water, if nearby, the devil will let out a loud shriek and rush towards the player, attacking it with its many tentacles. While they usually attack in numbers, by killing enough water devils in one area, this will cause the others to flee for a short while, clearing the way for you and your party to cross. Once again, poison shot is the best method for taking these creatures out. Congratulations, you made it past the enemy AI and have located your first bounty. Based on the icon on the map, you will now be faced with one of 4 bounty targets: the Butcher, the Spider, Scrapbeak, or the Assassin. The goal in this game is to kill the target, banish the body, and extract with the bounty. It's important to note that all 4 bounties have a large health pool and will enter a state of increased rage when enough damage is applied. This rage state is indicated by faster movement and usually a scream coming from the bounty target. It is best to leave the bounty area if possible during this state, as any damage done will have a decreased effect until the rage is over. The Butcher is essentially a large creature that can be found with a pig's head mounted to its torso. The Butcher carries a flaming hook that it will use to spread fire and ignite the survivor, along with performing a basic attack. Upon seeing the player, the Butcher will attempt to throw a ball of fire towards your location, spreading flame across the area, and then charge in your direction similar to the way a Meathead attacks. When enough damage is done to the Butcher, the pig's head will fall off, and he will enter his rage state. The best way to deal with the Butcher is with multiple spike grenades, as they do massive amount of damage. Heavy attacks with large melee weapons like the sledgehammer will also do a considerable amount of damage to the Meathead. A good tactic is to also bring choke bombs, as the Butcher's hook can be choked out, removing the possibility of him using his fire attacks. But be careful, as any fire damage after that point will cause the hook to reignite. The hook can also be reignited if the Butcher runs into a lantern, so be sure to turn off all lanterns in the area if you plan on taking out his fire attack. The Spider utilizes increased speed, better movement, and poison to subdue his enemies. The Spider will attack a single hunter at a time, crawling along walls and ceilings to avoid the hunter's attacks. When the Spider gets close to you, it will strike with a poison attack, which will decrease your movement speed and your vision, and begin attacking with bleeding strikes. Due to the extreme and quick movements of the enemy, it is one of the more challenging bosses to fight, as it is almost impossible to stick with any throwable weapons and is immune to poison. Just be sure to be consistent and keep attacking. Eventually he will fall, just like the rest of them. Scrapbeak is a large, bird-like enemy that carries a large amount of supplies on its back, hence the name. When Scrapbeak notices a player, it will launch a stream of concertina wire at the player, which will limit movement if encountered. While damaging Scrap Beak, he will shake off various pieces of equipment ranging from traps and weapons to ammo and health, which can all be picked up to assist in the fight. Note that any fire damage or explosive damage will render this equipment unusable, so be cautious if you want to take advantage of it. As this boss moves at a more normal speed compared to the Spider and Assassin, the best practice to deal with him quickly is by attaching a spike grenade to him, but once again, this will damage the equipment on its back, so only do this if you are pressed for time or being pressured by another team closing in. Finally, we have the Assassin, the last of our 4 main bounties. The Assassin is a tall, lanky figure who can disappear into a swarm of crawling insects that will blind the player if they are unfortunate enough to get too close. The Assassin closes the gap with the hunters and slashes at them, causing bleeding damage, and seems to always focus on the hunter with the lowest health. On occasion, the Assassin will spawn a doppelganger that will also begin attacking the player. I have found the easiest method of dealing with this guy is to pop an antidote shot and stand in the cloud of a poison bomb, as the Assassin has a very severe dislike for poison. All of the bounties once killed will have the option of banishment, where you walk up to the body and press an action button, which will begin a countdown timer, along with restoring all health chunks from every player on your team. A message across the screen of all players in the match will also appear, letting everyone know the target is being banished, along with marking the location of the bounty to any player who has not yet discovered it, essentially ringing a dinner bell for all hunters looking to swoop in and take your prize from you. You will need to hold out against any advancing players for a set amount of time before being able to collect the bounty and make your way towards the next boss if available, or an extraction point. Once you obtain a bounty, you and your other teammate gain something called Enhanced Dark Sight, where for 5 seconds you can see the aura of nearby players in a bright orange light. Now, while you do only have a total of 5 seconds with Dark Sight, the Dark Sight counter can be refilled by killing and looting other hunters, so use this ability to your advantage and try your hardest to avoid entering Dark Sight if no hunters are nearby. Once you reach an extraction point, you'll be met with another timer, similar to other extraction type games, and as long as you can hold out against other players and AI who may have followed you, you've successfully completed a round of Hunt Showdown. Now, progressing in Hunt Showdown is pretty straightforward. You have 2 different levels to worry about. There's your Bloodline, which you must increase to unlock tiers 2 and 3 hunters, along with new perks, items, and weapons. The other type of level is your character level. This must be increased in order to afford more traits to outfit your hunter with. It's important to note that these levels run completely independent from each other. Upon successfully completing a match, your total XP earned will be split evenly between your Bloodline and your hunter. Upon reaching the max level of 10 with your hunter, all XP gained from completing a match will be sent to your Bloodline, effectively giving you double XP for as long as you use that hunter and keep them alive. With the exception of event traits that protect your hunter for a set number of eliminations, Hunt Showdown operates with a one-strike, you're-out policy. If you die in a match and are unable to be revived, that hunter and all of its gear, levels, and traits is gone forever. Upon reaching max Bloodline of 100, along with obtaining all available weapons and equipment, you'll be given the option of prestiging your account and going back to level 1. While prestiging is completely unnecessary, it does reward you with certain bonuses including XP boosts, legendary characters and skins, and hunt dollars. Now on to customization. Once you select your hunter, you'll be given the option of selecting any loadout that fits your playstyle. With multiple different weapon types and variants, there is a little bit of everything for everyone. If you have reached a sufficient level in your Bloodline and have a weapon unlocked, you'll have the option of using its base variant. By gaining XP with that specific weapon, you will then unlock different variations of said weapon. This could be anything from an improved aperture sight for a repeating rifle to a quick load ability for a pump shotgun. Every character has the option of selecting either one primary and one secondary, but can use traits such as Quartermaster and Ambidextrous to either carry 2 primaries or dual-wield pistols. Additionally, some weapons offer a smaller, more compact variant of the base model, which can be used as a secondary with the Quartermaster perk. One of my favorite combinations is the Model 1886 Sniper alongside the Spectre 1882 Compact for when hunters get a little bit too close for comfort. If you do find yourself running low on funds and don't care for some of the weapons in your arsenal, they can be sold for hunt dollars as well to further fund weapons you plan on using. A common practice for many people is to equip their free hunter before each round and sell their weapons if they don't plan on using them to better equip the hunter that they do plan on using. Beyond loadouts, there's not much in terms of player customization, as you cannot change the look of your hunter. but there are a plethora of hunters available to earn through prestiging and through purchasing via the game's premium currency, blood bonds. This game has a very talented team of digital artists that take the game's setting and tone into account when designing these amazing looking character skins. You definitely won't be seeing John Wick fighting a banana in the streets of Lower DeSalle, and this fact really adds to the immersion, forcing you to question every dark corner and every row of bushes, as a dull gray character skin may be all that's needed to get the jump on you. During your time with Hunt Showdown, you will find yourself getting better and better each and every day. I know when I first started, I was barely able to kill the enemy AI, let alone another hunter. I didn't even get my first headshot until 4 months after I started playing the game. The game takes your skill into account while you're playing with its MMR system. Your play will be placed anywhere from 1 to 5 stars depending on how well you perform, and will be matched with other players in the same skill bracket. If playing with a team of varying skill, the MMR will be averaged and you'll be placed in the appropriate match. So if you're a 1-star player and you team up with a 5-star player, you'll likely find yourself in a 3-star lobby. So stick to the shadows and take those easy kills while your 5-star buddy has a field day wiping the map. Overall, this system seems to do pretty well for the game, as I've not really found myself in too many games that I feel completely outclassed, and I've definitely not found any games where it feels like I'm just playing AFK bots. Each game presents itself with its own challenges and truly shows how skill-based matchmaking can be implemented properly. Overall, this game is easily one of my top 10s. I cannot remember the last time I had this much fun playing a shooter even by myself. The atmosphere Hunt Showdown puts you in can get you extremely invested, and to this day is the only game where I find myself consistently buying DLC just so I can add some feathers to my Winchester. If you've been eyeing this game for a while but just can't seem to get yourself to pull the trigger on it, Hunt Showdown does go on sale frequently, and can even be bundled along with some of the premium hunters to start you out. I know when I got my copy, I was able to snag this Doc Holliday looking dude, and I just think he looks incredible.
I have 2 guns, 1 for each of you.
In conclusion, Hunt Showdown is a fantastic game that has seen continued support from both the developers and the community surrounding it. You can always hop onto the Hunt Showdown Discord and find hundreds of people looking to squad up and enter the bayou, and I highly suggest that you do. If you do end up picking this game up, look out for me on the Discord server. I would love to play with some of my viewers. Until next time, this has been Ctrl-Alt-Bang. Have a great day.